Hello and welcome to The Mill. I am your host, Dusty Crane, and this week I thought we'd talk about the last Wednesday Facebook live stream because there was just a lot of good Stonemaier news in it. Also, before I get into that, I just wanted to thank Carol over at Laserland for that thing right there. Super cool. She was a great person to work with. She makes excellent Wingspan tokens. I think I've shown them before in some of my pictures, just the copy that I've had for a while. I picked those up and then just recently ordered the Nectar tokens and asked her, hey, you think this is something you could do? And voila. So I think that's pretty cool. Thank you, Carol. I'll post a link to her Etsy shop in the comments just in case you are interested in getting some Wingspan bits of your own, or she has like Everdell stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. It's not like a sponsorship or anything like that, but let's go ahead and get into the Facebook live stream. I'm going to let Jamey do most of the heavy lifting this episode. I will pop in a few places here and there to offer just a few thoughts I have. Let's get to it.
Hey, good morning. This is Jamey Stonemaier with Stonemaier Games, and today is my weekly live cast on Facebook and later to be on YouTube. And David says, what's the ETA for the Between Two Castles expansion? Yeah, David, I'll jump over to the e-newsletter. That's one of the topics here. So in the e-newsletter, we say that in early May, we will start to reveal details for the long-awaited expansion to Between Two Castles. Production is complete, so we're on track for a late May pre-order with fulfillment to follow soon after. So we're looking probably early May announcement, late May pre-order, and then June fulfillment for the Between Two Castles expansion. Sean mentioned my April Fool's joke this year, and yeah, it's kind of an odd one because it continues to get a lot of views. I don't know exactly why, but I did have fun with it. So on April Fool's Day, it happened to be on Thursday, which is when I usually post a blog post. And I posted a blog. Actually, I won't spoil it for you, but it's a fun little thing. It's cat related, so if you like cat related humor, feel free to check that out on the Stonemaier Games blog from last Thursday. Just a complete joke about my cats and the amount of attention they demand. Blog post about that. We have a small restock of Pendulum that will arrive with the shipment of Red Rising, which I'll segue into that in a second. And I think there's a small shipment of the Scythe hardcover rulebook as part of that shipping container that's due to arrive. Now, our latest projection for that shipment, which mostly features Red Rising, for the U.S., our U.S. fulfillment center, our latest estimate, unless I have an email right now that says otherwise, no, I do not, is that it was supposed to arrive yesterday and it didn't. It got caught up in a backlog in Texas, some sort of trucking thing. And the latest day that we have is next Tuesday. I'm hoping it will arrive a little bit earlier than that so we can start shipping it. We're still on track for essentially what we said last week, which is shipping will start in early April, continue for champions through mid-April, and then non-champions in late April. But I will let you all know if that changes. Canada has slightly better news. It sounded like the Canadian shipment did arrive yesterday. I don't know if I have 100% confirmation on that, but that seemed to be the case based on what I heard yesterday. So in Canada, champions might start getting Red Rising shipping notifications later this week, or at worst, probably early next week. What else did I have to say about Red Rising? Two digital tools that are now available. There's, and this is, I'm looking at my other screen on the e-newsletter. One is that there is a web-based interactive rulebook called RulePop. And if you go to RulePop, I think it's RulePop / Red Rising, just look on the link in the e-newsletter. It'll take you to a really neat version of the rulebook where you can kind of click on different words that'll take you to a page. It's somewhat of a pop-up. It'll take you to a page that shows you information about that. I think it's mobile friendly. I've been looking at it on my computer. And also, just today, Tim Meyer, the guy who's been working on the full AI Tapestry digital app, created a digital scoring app for Red Rising. So if you don't want to use the score pad when you have Red Rising, you can use this digital app. It is web-based, but it is mobile friendly, so you can use it on any phone. And feel free to check that out as well. I think Tim did a great job with that. Tim says, in my recent April Fool's post, you mentioned the number of hours that you're working. However, given the nature of the post, I'm not sure if that was just made up or based on reality. No, those numbers were real. Well, so in the post I said that my current time every week is divided between around 65 hours spent on Stonemaier games and then the other 103 hours spent on my cats. That part was false. I do spend a lot of the time and attention on my cats, but not 103 hours. I do sleep. But yeah, 65 hours I think is pretty accurate right now for the amount of time I spend on Stonemaier games every week. Um, and Tim says, but I know from personal experience that with you that you seem to work pretty much most of the time. And I wonder, do you know how many hours a week you work, and do you have a particular goal for yourself that you try to achieve each week? I wouldn't say it's a goal. 65 is pretty close to what I work. I think I've just found over time that I have a sweet spot for how much I want to spend working. I really enjoy my work. I enjoy the amount of variety that I get in my job. I enjoy working every day. I rarely like to actually take a full day off. Even when I was in Kansas City, technically on vacation, I'd work a few hours in the morning, and I'd check in on email later in the day. And that's satisfying to me. It feels good to run Stonemaier games. It feels good to serve you and be there for you if you have questions. And it's also great to have Joe, our director of communications, to be there to answer a lot of those questions. That was something that was a lot harder for me to do vacations before Joe worked for Stonemaier Games. And Alex as well has been a huge asset for communications with retailers, localization partners, and distributors. But yeah, I would say that's accurate. But I wouldn't say it's a goal. It's not like I say, okay, I want to work 65 hours every week. That is my goal. I just work to try to get the job done. And with game design, the job is never done. But I really enjoy that side of things too. So I try to get that in a little bit every day. Humberto says, will there ever be a Scythe TV series? I hope so. I think that would be really awesome. I only have, Stonemaier Games has the tabletop rights to Scythe, or tabletop rights to Jakob's 1920 plus universe. There's another company that has the digital rights to his 1920 plus universe. And someday I hope there is a possibility that Jakob will come to a deal that actually ends up creating something with someone who is either making a film or a TV series based on Scythe. That would be truly awesome, but I don't know. That's Jakob's property to deal with and work out. I'm here to help him if he ever wants it, but Jakob is very capable to take care of that. Let me look over the e-newsletter and see what else I'm missing here. So I am talking about again on the e-newsletter, the Wingspan Speckled Eggs. I know I've talked about that for the last month, but we do have those on the web store still, and they're beautiful. I don't think I've actually gotten to play a game with them yet of Wingspan, because I've been playing Wingspan Digital, but I need to play a game of Wingspan with the Speckled Eggs. I mentioned the Between Two Castles expansion. We will announce that next May, or not next May, this coming May, and next month. Oh, and Meeple Source and Top Shelf Gamer, two of our partners, friends in the industry that make fancy tokens. Top Shelf Gamer recently announced a new line of realistic resource tokens, and Meeple Source has a Kickstarter going right now that includes special meeples for Scythe and Wingspan. These products are separate from Stonemaier Games. We don't get anything from them, but I really like these companies. I like the people who run them, and they are related to our games. So I wanted to mention them here in case you want to check those out. I had something else to mention. Oh yeah, this is on my little sticky note here, but some content that I've created this past week that you might want to check out if you're curious is, in addition to the April Fool's post last Thursday, on Monday I posted about Clubhouse, which is kind of a new app right now that people are talking about. A lot of people have invited me to it, which I appreciate, but I haven't joined for a reason, and I detail that in the blog post itself. I also did a video this past weekend about catch-up mechanisms in games, and it was a slightly different format for a longer video. It wasn't a top 10 list. Our Stonemaier ambassadors often answer surveys about their favorite games, or about, in this case, their favorite catch-up mechanism. And I kind of went down the list and shared ambassador thoughts on a variety of different catch-up mechanisms in games. So if you're looking to discuss that or looking into that topic as a designer, you might check out that video on my YouTube channel. Let's see. Hi says, question for Wingspan. Does the existence of speckled eggs mean that future expansions will address potential effects of different egg colors? Great question. Yeah, we've been asked about that, about the colors of the eggs. And the answer is no. Like, the colors of the eggs will never matter in terms of gameplay because of colorblind issues. Yeah, it's just, even though the speckled eggs do make it easier, I think, for people who have color blindness to identify one egg versus another, the speckled eggs are completely optional. And yeah, I don't think the egg colors, or I know the egg colors will never matter in a game. The only exception to that would be like if a fan made a rule suggestion that a rule variant that people could play with, a house rule that made egg colors matter. I'm fine with that. People can share that sort of thing at any time, but there won't be anything official about that. Kevin has a question about the Viticulture expansion. And Kevin, I am excited about the expansion, but I'm not sharing details about it yet. It's still a work in progress, and probably I won't start talking about what's actually in the Viticulture expansion until early 2022. But I am very excited to talk about it then. Tim says, do I have a space tiles list posted anywhere for Tapestry? There was one that confused us. That is noted in the rulebook, actually, Tim. Yeah, if you look in the expansion rulebook for the one that you're referring to, which is the military icon equals 5 VP, that is noted in the expansion rulebook. So any icons that aren't mentioned in the quick reference guide for the core game are mentioned in the expansion rulebook, and that one is mentioned there. What that means is whenever you advance on the military track, you gain 5 victory points. But I'm 100% sure it is in the expansion rulebook, so check it out there. George says, any new major updates in terms of sustainability for Stonemaier games? On Monday, Panda had their monthly crowdcast, and this time it was about sustainability in the board game industry. The major update that we had a few months ago is that starting in, I think, like a month or two, games that will arrive, or products that will arrive in a month or two, will start using biodegradable plastic bags instead of normal plastic bags. So I think it's a corn-based plastic bag that we'll be using in the foreseeable future. So that is a big deal. That's a big thing that we're doing. We are still looking into alternatives for shrink wrap on games and in decks of cards. That's especially in decks of cards. I'd really like to figure that out. And Panda has been working on that using like paper wraps and things like that. But they haven't been able to find a way to prevent ink from rubbing off, the card ink from rubbing off on those paper strips. They're very careful about that. So they don't want to sacrifice quality, but at the same time, they are looking for solutions like that. But I don't have an update about that quite yet. But it is something that's on my mind all the time. Joshua says, unless I'm mistaken, Stonemaier doesn't have a Discord channel. Is this something you would be open to having? It's a good question. I do like Discord. I use it for virtual game nights. I use it for one of the games that I've been working on for a while. I use it for the Stonemaier shareholders. I don't have a general public Stonemaier Discord group. And the main reason is that it would be yet another thing to moderate. And currently we have a lot of different social media that we participate in and moderate. Facebook, social media, the blog, YouTube, Instagram, Board Game Geek. It's a lot. And so that's really the main reason that we haven't added it at this point. So at this point, I would say I lean towards not having one. I know it can be an asset, but with all those other things, especially the game-specific Facebook groups, we have leaned against it so far. Kenneth says he's new to watching my live stream, and maybe you've answered this in previous streams already, but have you ever considered doing a fan-made expansion to Scythe? Basically manufacturing the top 3 of fan-made Scythe factions found online. Yeah, that's a great question, Kenneth. And we actually already have. The Wind Gambit was originally a fan expansion from Kai Stark. He had the idea for the airships, and he designed the expansion. He play tested it, and then he posted it on the Scythe Facebook group. I love the idea, and I ended up co-designing it with Scythe. Co-designing it with Kai. It needed a lot of work from there, and it eventually became the Wind Gambit. And the same thing happened for Scythe's for the campaign expansion for the Rise of Fenris. Ryan had created a campaign expansion. I loved what he did with it. We ended up pretty much scrapping what he had written, but a lot of the ideas he had ended up contributing to the final campaign and the Rise of Fenris. It kind of happened with My Little Scythe. My Little Scythe was a fan creation that we ended up publishing. There's an element in Tuscany that has that is a fan creation. So yeah, we do pay attention to fan creations quite a bit. The other side of your question, though, is, and I should say, it is never as simple as just saying, okay, that's a cool thing, we'll start printing it tomorrow. It takes a lot of work for us to get it up to the Stonemaier level of quality that we're looking for. There's a lot of development, there's a lot of design. I was the co-designer on all these expansions. There's a lot of play testing that goes into it. Also art, graphic design. There's a lot that goes into any product. So the final answer to your question is, we are done making content for Scythe, the tabletop game. It is complete, it is finished. We still are excited when fans create content to share publicly for free for people to try. But Stonemaier Games is officially done making Scythe content. The Scythe story is complete in terms of Scythe, the tabletop game. I am open to making other worlds in Jakob's 1920 plus world, but Scythe, the tabletop game itself, is complete. David says, I've been seeing ads online for Scythe and Tapestry on large sites like New York Times. Is that new, or have the internet gods finally realized what I look at online? I mean, we don't advertise on the New York Times. We pay a little bit for Google ads every month, but it's very, very little. I'm curious about what that is. I'm hoping it isn't a scam. So, Dave, the next time you see one of those, please take a screenshot and send it to me and click on it and send me a link to where it takes you, because I want to make sure that it isn't a scam. Because we have seen that happen for Wingspan, where people were selling air. They weren't selling anything. They were making people click on ads on Facebook and Instagram, on Google, and taking people to sites that weren't real. They didn't have any copies of the game, and they were selling something that wasn't real. So I'm always a little concerned about that. So let me know what you see the next time you see that. Another David, two different Davids, says, any update on the board game arena implementation of Tapestry? Unfortunately, I do not have an update about that yet. I do stay in touch with Board Game Arena to see what's going on, but basically the person who's working on it is a volunteer who just works on it in his free time. I'm very appreciative of him working on it, but it is taking a little while for him to get through it. Sam says, when can we expect the 2020 Stakeholder Report? I look forward to it every year. Actually, funny you asked, Sam. I plan on writing that tomorrow. Unless something big and crazy comes up, I will be doing the Stakeholder Report tomorrow. And just to clarify what that is, if you're not familiar with it, you are a stakeholder of Stonemaier Games. Even just by watching this, you are investing your time in Stonemaier Games. Stakeholders are anyone who benefits from Stonemaier Games or is invested in any way in Stonemaier Games, whether it's your time, whether you bought one of our products, whether you subscribe to our e-newsletter, if you're in one of our Facebook groups, you have the stakes of Stonemaier Games are in your hands just as much as they are in my hands. And so every year I post a report, kind of a behind-the-scenes report about how we're doing, how our year was last year, and where we stand today, and where we want to look in the future. And so tomorrow I'll be doing that on the Stonemaier Games blog.
Okay, so the question about the stakeholder report. Jamey did actually go ahead and post it, and it's always a super interesting read because you get a little peek behind the curtain of what a board game company that is pretty successful, like what that looks like. And of course there's stuff like the numbers, although the revenue was something I want to say, I don't have those directly in front of me, but like 12.9 million or something like that. That has nothing to do with, I guess, the actual money that they took in. That's just, business stuff. I guess the difference between revenue and profit, right? But one of the things that I looked at that I was most impressed by was the games in print. Now, Jamey's pretty transparent about like how many copies of games they have in print, and for good reason. I mean, not just because we're the shareholders or whatever, that we contribute in some way, or are a part of their success, certainly. So the games in print, I always just thought of Scythe or Stonemaier as the house of Scythe, right? It's hard to argue that. Before Wingspan, anyway, it was hard to argue that you didn't attribute Stonemaier to Scythe, like they were hand in hand. In fact, the games in print for Scythe, 382,102 copies, wildly successful, right? I think the nearest title to it before Wingspan, according to this, would be Viticulture, which of course is another evergreen. It's another game that always comes up in board game circles, is, in my opinion, a classic. Viticulture, I think, has reached that level, has been successful long enough to say that Viticulture is certainly one of those classic worker placement games, a classic Stonemaier game. That one, 134,826. So that difference between Scythe and Viticulture, the 134,000 between 382,000, it's significant, right? Wingspan, 746,991 copies is amazing. That is so cool. You have to think that we could see the 1 millionth copy in print this year. That's crazy numbers. I'm super happy for Stonemaier, but also just beyond happy and proud of Elizabeth for this game. When some people, they see a problem and they grumble, right? I mean, that's natural. But Elizabeth actually saw, hey, there aren't a bunch of games about this thing that I care about. And she went out and she made it, and obviously there was a lot of other people that felt that was missing too. 746,991 copies. Congratulations.
Giovanni says, how does one become a blind playtester for Stonemaier games? You can sign up first as a Stonemaier ambassador. That's on our website. And then every year or so, if I am looking for more playtesters, I send a quiz to those two Stonemaier ambassadors. And usually around 5%, maybe 10% of people fill out that quiz with the correct answers, and they become eligible to become playtesters in the future. Guillaume says he's looking forward to Red Rising. Any other upcoming expansions for Tapestry in the future? Yes, we are working on a second expansion for Tapestry that will be released later this year. Eric says, do you have the prototype of the legendary Wingspan box? I have the first prototype. It's a little off camera over here, but I don't have the second prototype yet. However, I'm expecting it fairly soon. I don't have an exact date, but Panda is working on it right now, and I should have that fairly soon. I'll probably do another maybe live stream on the Wingspan Facebook group to talk about that, and I will update the Wingspan Big Box page of our website as well when that happens. Andres says, my wife and I love Wingspan. He's working on developing a fun campaign for it, a fan campaign. That's awesome. Our Speckled Eggs came in a couple weeks ago, and they are great. Any news on the double-sided Neoprene mats? Let's see what our estimate for the Neoprene mats is. Neoprene mats. We are looking at more Wingspan Neoprene mats in August. Yeah, so they are in a print run that we started fairly recently. Any print run takes usually 4 to 5 months to get from start to finish to get to our fulfillment centers. So I know that seems very distant right now, but that is what we're looking at right now. Betsy says, how soon into the process do you add games to the chart in the newsletters? I've noticed Codename Dive has been there for a while, but are there more games in early brainstorming phases? Yeah, that's a great question, Betsy. I typically only add things to the e-newsletter when we are almost definitely going to make it. And some of them, I'm saying that carefully because sometimes there are games or products that get added to that list and then we don't end up making it. But I try to draw the line there. Like if we are very confident or fairly confident that we are actually going to make it, then I put it on there. I don't put accessories. I don't. So like the Wingspan Big Box won't show up on there even though we are working on it. There are other things that we're working on that don't show up on there. But that is usually the line I draw. And the answer to your question is yes, there are plenty of things that are brainstormed, plenty of beginnings of ideas and things like that aren't on there. That we'll add later when they're ready. Sean says, do you think that there's a way to add the Oceania bird cards to the deck without using the new playmats and Nectar? Yeah, we mentioned that in the FAQ on the Wingspan Oceania page on our website. There I believe are maybe 17 cards that you need to remove, or if they come up, you just remove them. All but one have Nectar in the cost, so they're really easy to identify. One has Nectar in its activated ability. But yeah, it's very easy to remove those cards. In fact, when I taught Wingspan Oceania to my parents, I did that. We used the original player mats, and I just removed those Nectar cards and we played without them. It was very easy to play that way. So yeah, but there is discussion about that on the Wingspan Oceania FAQ. Scott says, are there any of your games that didn't perform as well as anticipated and that you would have done things otherwise? Yeah, I mean, the major case study that I used for this is Between Two Castles of Madkin Ludwig, which I thought was going to be a huge hit. I love the game. I love the core mechanism. I love castles. I love the art in it. I love so much about it. And it didn't do as well as we thought. And over the years, I've tried to evaluate the reasons why. One of them might be that the way I announced it was different than how I announce things now. Now I announce something and I reveal details about it over the course of a few weeks, and then we have the pre-order a few weeks later. When I did Castles, I announced it and I revealed it, and we started the pre-order on the same day. Everything was on the same day, and that was a lot. I think that was maybe too much. It didn't go over well with retailers and distributors. Didn't resonate as well with customers. all those things didn't work. But that was just the launch. There have to be bigger reasons. I think part of it is that it isn't a game it's designed mostly for 3 to 7 players. It does have a 2-player variant, but it isn't the focus of the game. And it didn't come with a solo mode, which I think was a big deal. So many of our games, all of our other games come with solo modes now. Fairly robust solo modes through Automa Factory. And so we are fixing that with the expansion. And I'm curious to see what that does for the lifetime of the game, the life cycle of the game. If having the solo mode in the Between Two Castles expansion helps, if that will reinvigorate it, or if it won't. So I'm curious to see what happens with that. But yeah, that is my case study game to think about there. Tim says, do you have any updates on the Pendulum overlay sheets, and will you make a version for the Automa? I meant to actually have them today to show you, because I do have some initial samples of what they'll look like. They're clear, so they probably won't look great on camera anyway. But I did get a sample from Panda, and they are working on a revised sample for me now as well. So we're definitely a few months away from having those made. The manufacturing process will take a while, as usual, but we are closer now, and I do have samples about that. Tim says, will I make a version for the Automa? I wasn't planning on doing that. No, I was just going to make one version of it because it requires either laser cutting or die cut, and just have people use those for the character mats. Yeah. Andrew says, what Stonemaier published game are you the most proud of in its success? I mean, I often look at Between Two Cities for this, because that was the first game that we published that wasn't designed, or at least co-designed, by me. So that was an exciting step in the Stonemaier Games process of becoming more than just a vanity publisher, basically. And Between Two Cities has done quite well. It's certainly not at the magnitude of Scythe or Wingspan or even Viticulture, but it has sold quite well, and it continues to sell well over the years. We continue to reprint Between Two Cities, which is really exciting for me to see over time. So yeah, I would say Between Two Cities is up there, but I love all of our games, especially those that I didn't design. I love seeing them be successful for all the different people that were who participated in bringing those games to life, from the designers, the developers, the graphic designer, the artists, the playtesters, the proofreaders. There's so many people that put their time and effort into a game. It's so much more than just one person, and so much more than just the publisher, me. So I'm very proud of those games. Tim says, is there a chance that the mini expansion to Wingspan that Dusty was talking about on the Mill is heading to Stonemaier Games? I have asked Elizabeth about that. Elizabeth is fully in charge of all gameplay content, except for Automa content, but all multiplayer game content for Wingspan. And if she is excited enough by the Frogmouth promo pack for us to actually publish it, I'm happy to do that. I'm more than happy to do that, and work that out with her, and work it out with the designer Travis, who worked on that promo pack. So yeah, if Elizabeth wants me to, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, so sometimes I feel almost like this is just a vanity project, and that I do YouTube videos for myself, which, trust me, if I was doing this for myself, I would not be doing it anymore, because there's a lot of work that goes into it, you know? I love, watching the Stonemaier stuff and whatever, but like the video editing, sometimes there's a lot to it. So it's certainly rewarding when I get comments from you guys, or you're participating in the comments of the video, or somebody asked, hey, how do you play Wingspan solo, and someone directs them to my solo video. All that stuff is super cool, but it almost in my head exists in a vacuum, right? So when on the live stream I saw Tim ask about the Frogmouth Pack, I'm like, people watching this show are coming back to Jamey with the things that I'm talking about on the show, despite the fact that he sees some of them, right? So that was super cool to see. Tim, thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing that question with Jamey, and I do hope that we see Travis's Frogmouth Pack get the official blessing and moved into an official product, but I guess we'll see.
Tiago says, let's see. I'll skim down to the question here, Tiago, because he says, okay, no, he does have a question. He says, it's really difficult to play Red Rising with more than 2 or 3 people, because some will inevitably have the cards on the board facing the opposite direction, which makes them very difficult to read and causes some havoc during play. I know there isn't an easy solution for this, but was this issue ever discussed during playtesting? Absolutely, yeah. I would actually say the issue isn't, I mean, you call it very, very difficult. I respect your perspective on that. I wouldn't say it's that bad, because we have incorporated icon into the cards, and really at any given time you only need to see 4 cards on the table. There are only 4 cards out there on the table, and so you can pick one up and just look at it and read the card if you need to. There's only 4 of them that you need to pay attention to. Also, you can pretty easily sit 2 people on one end of the table and 2 people right next to the board. So with up to 4 players, I don't think 2 or 3 is a little low for that. I think 4 is maybe, if you go above 4, if you go to 5 or 6, that's where you have someone looking at the board upside down. We did think about this quite a bit in terms of the board design, and basically we decided we could have made like a circular board, but then at least one card would be upside down to every player at the table. And so we decided that it would be better to have, more than half of the players be able to see the cards face up, or at least from a readable angle, than have no players be able to do that for at least one of the cards. And your other question was, are there any Red Rising expansions in the pipeline? And no, not yet, because we haven't even gotten the core game to all pre-order customers yet. We have a lot to ship once the US shipment arrives. Ivan says, I asked you once about the visitor cards in Viticulture that I thought were overpowered. You told me to get more visitors to get more balance in terms of getting victory points. Since it was hard for me to find them, I was wondering if there is a possibility to get a big box or deluxe version of Viticulture that includes everything. No, we don't do that. We sell our products separate a la carte, so that people can get exactly what they want and not what they don't want. And also to respect people who have already invested a lot into our games. That if they already have components A, B, and C, that if they want D, they just buy it because D is available separately. Yeah. So no, we don't do those big box versions of games. At least, yeah. Jake here, one of my disc golf buddies, says, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on competitive play for Stonemaier games? Could you ever see yourself offering prize support or officially sanctioning a world championship? Or even creating a game geared towards this type of play, like 2-player battle games like Magic the Gathering and Keyforge? Jake is a big Keyforger. We don't publish 2-player only games, so I'll eliminate that off the bat. A long time ago, I tried the tournament format. I tried to host a Euphoria tournament, and it was fun, but I walked away from it feeling like it just wasn't a fit for kind of the Stonemaier games, I don't know, psyche, philosophy, where the point of playing our games is I don't know. I don't want to say that competitive games aren't, or tournament level games aren't fun, but where the point of playing a game is the fun, not winning, not the focus on actually winning the game. So it just felt a little weird, felt a little off afterward. And so since then, we haven't done official tournaments. Every now and then I'll offer prize support to someone who's running a tournament somewhere, but it is just not a big part of the focus of our games. So at this point, I would say that isn't something that we're pursuing. Maybe it's possible someday, if we have a game that really fits that format, we might consider it, but it isn't something that we have designed around to this point. Because I think that's maybe part of the point. I think tournament-style games need to be designed for that format in general. I think if you go into it saying, okay, this is a game that I'm designing specifically for competitive play, for tournament play, that you'll come out with a much better outcome than if you just design a game and then on the back end say, ooh, let's have a tournament for this game. Yeah, that's my 2 cents about it. Matt says, is there anything that you missed from when Stonemaier Games was a smaller company? There are certainly things that I miss, yeah. I think the main things that I miss are maybe some of the social media reactions to things, or the social media perception of Stonemaier Games and me and things like that. There are certainly assets to being smaller in that way, yeah. But a lot of the other things I love how big the community is now around Stonemaier Games. That is a lot of fun for me to experience and be a part of. And it's fun for me to have a few fellow full-time coworkers for the first time this year, or last year was the first time with Alex and Joe. That was fun too. Yeah, and it's like the point of my company is to bring joy to tabletops worldwide. And so being small, we were trying to do that, but now I think we're accomplishing that a lot more because we can bring our games, because we are bringing our games to more people worldwide. Extra questions. Robert says, can we pay to get extra parts? He says his puppy chewed up a My Little Scythe faction, so I don't think that qualifies to fill out the form for replacement parts. Actually, Robert, that completely qualifies the replacement parts form. We are happy to replace anything that you break that's missing. That's whether it's you open the box that's missing, or if you break it, if you lose it, we are here for you. We really, really mean that. That you can fill out our replacement parts form at any time for anything that you are missing that's broken that you need for one of our games. If you want to offer to pay for it, you're welcome to do that. If that feels right to you, we're happy for you to pay for shipping, for example, for a part, because some of them are somewhat expensive, but we consider that our responsibility. We love pets. Everyone at some of our games has pets, and we know that pets do weird things with game components, and our support really is there for the entire life cycle of the game, no matter who you bought the game from. I think that there are rare exceptions to that, like if someone somehow buys a game that is an empty box, we're not going to replace the entire game, but there are very few exceptions to that. So yeah, go ahead and fill out the form right now, and we'll help you out.
Maybe a little bit of a weird time to break in here, but this next clip was something that I wasn't sure I should put on the show, because until now I tried to keep Jamey's personal life out of the highlights, because this was supposed to be like kind of talking about Stonemaier news, but due to the request he makes in the video, in the clip, I'm going to share it, because I'm sure there's not people that are watching me who aren't watching him, but in the case that is the case, then I wanted to present this so that you could act on his request. And so a little bit of a content warning here, because just to be perfectly clear and upfront, at the time of the video, and may actually still be as of right now, Jamey's dad is in the hospital, and he had just got that news prior to, I guess, going online. So the emotions are a little bit raw. If you are somebody who's lost somebody recently, or have been shown, had very much concern for somebody's health, and this could be difficult to watch. And even if you haven't, it could still be difficult to watch. So I just want to make you aware of that. If that's something you can't handle right now, then just go ahead and I guess leave the video. This is the last clip. But if not, let's go ahead and let Jamey make his request.
I hope you have a great day. And yeah, if you don't mind, my dad's in the hospital right now, so it's been a little tough to have today's podcast. But if you don't mind, sending good thoughts to my dad, I'd really appreciate that.
All right, so emotions are a little bit raw, right? And it's a little bit tough to watch. But and before I say what I'm going to say, last time I reached out to Jamey, his dad was still in the hospital, doing a little bit better than before. So maybe the well wishes that the people that beat us to the punch have helped, certainly. So hopefully his dad is doing even better today. But certainly us sending well wishes his way isn't going to hurt anything at all. So let's go ahead and do that. If I may, then I guess I'll share a little bit with you guys. And if you're done with the board game talk and you don't care about me, then this was the end of the episode. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other. But as I was going to say, having I guess lost my dad and lost my father-in-law, all of those father figures in my life are past. And that's just one of those things that sucks about growing up, because, well, we're growing up, they're growing up too. But I don't want to bum you guys out. I just want to use this as a reminder to say, tell the people you love that you love them. Even if you don't get back what you're hoping to get back from it, if you are in a strained relationship, if you feel it, say it. And obviously this is in places where it's safe to do so. I know some people have very difficult relationships with some people that they love. So don't take any of my advice. If it's harmful advice to you, please. And if you're in that situation, I'm very sorry. But I just, more than anything, you tell the people that you love them. You won't regret it, because life is short as it is, and there are so many circumstances that make it even shorter, whether it's illness or or accident or, just something out of the blue, neither one of those calls that we got about my father-in-law or my dad, they weren't expected. So our relationships were in different places, but thankfully the most difficult relationship was with my dad. But one thing that he always taught me is, even when we were at polar opposites or polar spectrums, is like, even when we'd get off the phone pissed off or something, you still say I love you, because especially family, we don't all have the same beliefs, we don't always have the same I guess things that matter greatly, and some things we're polar opposites in areas that are very important to us, and those people that we love have the greatest capability of hurting us. But also, I've learned that there's tremendous value in being able to look yourself in the face and know that you did everything that you could. And so I would just, if you're in a position to do so, and even if you're not in a straight relationship at all, like, you could have a great relationship with your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister, let them know. Let them know. That's one way you can take care of yourself and each other this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Please send warm wishes, prayers, whatever is a part of your faith or your exercise of care for people, whatever that is. Please send those warm thoughts to Jamey's dad, and let's hope the next Wednesday live stream has some good news for us. All right. Until next time, again, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.